So, like, we've had this thing going on where we keep on talking about how, like, hey, this thing that this game does is remarkably Zelda-like. And it's like, I've got this idea that there is a Zelda-like, and there are games that are Zelda-like. And everybody knows immediately what I'm talking about when I say that a game is Zelda-like, but now that I think about it, there aren't actually a lot of Zelda-likes out there other than Zelda.
It is... Yeah, it is definitely interesting in that for a game that is so influential and has so, like, has so much behind it, and it was so, like, in considering how popular it was, it's just, if you want a game that is like Zelda, that was produced within the last, like, 10, 15 years, maybe, your options are basically this and Okami? That's about it?
It's like, you can widen your options a bit if you start being interpretive with the 2D stuff. Like, you can argue with a straight face for at least a minute that The Binding of Isaac is a Zelda-like. Because it has the flourishes.
Right, and of course, you know, there's a lot of 2D Zeldas. Like, I mean, Blossom Tales, for example, just off the top of my head, is literally...
Kamiko.
I wouldn't go Kamiko. Kamiko's more action-oriented, I think. But yeah, it's like Blossom Tales, It'll Do. Like, there's a whole bunch of 2D ones.
Yeah. There aren't a lot of, like, capital ZL Zelda-likes, yeah, except this and Okami. And I guess now that we've invoked Okami, it's time for me to duck and cover.
I have opinions about Okami. I will probably not go through all of them. But you could, though. Like, it's just, we just have it on record. The rest of this video could be me talking about Okami, and we wouldn't even be close to done.
Like, and to be fair, it would be very fitting to have a video that's like, I say a small amount of things, and then I mention Okami, and then I get a 20-minute lecture, and then I say one more thing. That would be very fitting for any discussion of Okami. I think that would be very evocative of how it feels to play that game sometimes.
See, I was just gonna say that's what these videos feel like in general to produce, so, you know. But we're on the same wavelength.
Speaking of things that we should have given up on multiple endings ago. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's low-key fascinating that the Zelda-like is an instantly descriptive, instantly evocative thing that you can call something, and yet, like, nobody actually does it. And I don't know why.
I think, and I mean, to be fair, there is a lot of Zelda's design that you can take in a direction that does not make someone immediately go, oh, that's Zelda. So the idea of, like, a vaguely Metroidvania-ish world is done by almost every action game that has any sort of upgrade system, and, like, that's Zelda as shit, but you don't really think of it as a Zelda thing.
I mean, really, isn't the Metroidvania thing the notion of you wander around a nominally open world, but you're gated by things that you can't do, and you one at a time gain the ability to do those things? Which is not the same as having a game with a large explorable area where you just get the ability to do more things, and sometimes places open up. You can very easily disappear into layers of analysis about this stuff.
Well, I think another thing that I think really goes into the whole Zelda-like thing is just that Zelda's a really hard thing to design.
Oh yeah, there is that.
Because, like, you can almost instantly look at something that does it wrong and go, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah. this is a disaster.
Like, for example, to plug another thread, there is, my friend FP and I are doing a Zelda ROM hack called Nimpy's Adventure. And, like...
I've seen, like, bits of that. I've seen, like, an hour of it, but you'd think when I say that I've seen, like, 2 half-hour episodes or something, but no. I've seen, like 20, like, very short clips of it.
But yeah, like, you can see, like, almost immediately, like, where all these little things are wrong. Where the cutscenes, where, like, the camera doesn't point you in the right direction after you do something. Or the logic required to figure out where the correct path to go forward is really loopy and... Like, it's just one of those things that what...
I know what you mean. So many invisible work in video games.
Right, and I just think in general that is a bigger problem for the quote-unquote Zelda-like than for almost any other genre because of how much guidance has to go into it to keep you on the right path, and also to make sure that the puzzles are, you know, sensible.
Yeah. Like, there's a million and one concerns, but... Anyway, we have a scythe.
We do have a scythe. It's pretty sweet. This is your designated AoE weapon.
Yeah, it seems pretty Apocalypse Horseman appropriate, although, you know, I wouldn't have... I've always thought the scythe was one of the other ones, but, you know, what do I know?
Don't worry about it. I'm sure he'll show up eventually.
So do we just have both of these now? What's the equipment situation like here?
So if you look up in the top right corner, you'll see. So we have the R2 weapon and we have the triangle weapon. So the scythe and one additional thing that we'll get later are your sub weapons. You always have one of them equipped, and you can combo in and out of them with your sword. So like you can do a couple sword slashes, toss in a scythe, and then go back to the sword. As long as you don't finish a combo, you can freely swap between them.
So I'm trying to think of weapon systems and action games, and we got like action games where you equip one weapon and that's your weapon and it can do a bunch of attacks, and we've got action games where you can equip 2 weapons in combos. Like your equipment just consists of 2 weapons and they can be any 2 weapons. Those are a thing. What I'm having trouble thinking of is action games where you have one main weapon that never changes and one sub-weapon that does. Other than Zelda, of course, because you know it's kind of the law that we have to make that comparison at this point. Like, there don't seem to be a lot that I can call to mind other than Zelda generally and Metal Gear Rising has that system. Which is weird, right? I always thought there'd be more. I guess if there are, I haven't played them.
Doesn't God of War do something sort of like that? I admit I haven't really played any of them after 1, so...
Yeah, I have never played the original trilogy. Like, I never bought myself to care very much. And then the remake came out, and everyone was like, wow, well, I say remake, the 4th one. God of 4. That's another one for the cancel counter, folks. And everyone was like, wow, this game is like literally the pinnacle of video games. So I played that. And I think it's been long enough after the release of that nobody will like come and actually drive to my house and shoot me in the head if I say that there is a second main equipable weapon in that game. And even then, it's like you have one weapon and it is what it is, and you have a bunch of combos that you can do with it, but there's no like secondary weapon mechanic in that game. Although there sure are a lot of very interesting mechanics involving switching weapons in that game.
Yeah, Darksiders 2 goes a lot harder into the... You know, you have one weapon, but it can be like one of like 10 or 12 different things that all do like they all have different styles. So that's something for maybe ways down the line.
There's a lot of ways to do combo variety in games. They're all good. Well, some of them are bad, but yeah. Lots of things can be good if you care enough about how it's going to play in the end.
Anyway, so now it's time to be introduced to what's possibly the worst gimmick in the game.
Oh, I'm excited now.
Well, let's wake up the gate.
I have come for the Destroyer. My brother spoke of your coming, but a powerful curse holds me now. I cannot help you. Any curse can be broken. Yes, perhaps. These servants of the Destroyer walk unseen within the realm of shadow. By their blood we are bound. By their blood shall we be free. I can no longer move within the Shadow Realm. Much of my power has left me. You need not enter it. I will grant you the power to see into the accursed realm for a time. But to what end? What hope have we now against the Destroyer's foul sorcery? Hope will not bring you freedom.
I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure where the end of that conversation was going.
It can't be that hard to find.
I think he was saying, like, oh, what hope have we? Oh, it's this, and then the response was like, oh, it's not a matter of hope. The implication being it's a matter of murder.
Anyway, so, do you like secret rooms?
No.
Okay, but what if those secret rooms were mandatory?
Still no.
Well, we may have a small problem.
Well. So yeah, this whole thing with seeing into the shadow realm, which, by the way, I am no longer capable of hearing the phrase shadow realm without having certain flashbacks. But this whole thing sounds extremely Lens of Truthy.
I can't believe you're dropping blatant spoilers like that, Fadul. Now what's the surprise going to be when we get to the end of Dungeon 3?
Yikes.
Anyway, this room is very straightforward. Kills only count if they're in the air.
Ah, it's one of those things that's in literally every action game but never has an agreed upon name. I think it's quite acceptable to call these things Alfheims these days. Yes, I think it was Alfheim, right? I'm not completely insane.
Yeah, the Alfheims were Bayonetta. They're secret rooms in Devil May Cry.
I just got confused because they're called Muspelheims in Bayonetta 2, which is the one that I remember. What with it, I've actually played it sometime in the last decade. But yeah, they're always something different. It's a little combat room. When your combat is good and your combat designers and your encounter designers know what they're doing, these things can be spectacular.
Yeah, about that.
I'm guessing this isn't one of those times. Oh boy. I guess we're gonna have fun dissecting some of these.
So these first two are pretty straightforward. I said I like the aerial one. It's quick, it's easy, it gets the point across.
Yeah, there can be a lot of these that they aren't fascinating. Nobody's gonna be writing theses about them, but like they're there so that you can have a tutorial that, hey, look at this thing you can do, and look how cool it is when you do it, and now have a little bit of fun doing it, and now remember that you can do it.
This one is just a straightforward kill 40 dudes in 3 minutes, and any way you want to do it.
I mean, there's something to be said for training people in this. You gotta learn efficiency. But yeah, like earlier I was talking about God of War. God of War is a game that has that problem where the combat is excellent. It's fucking incredible. And all the systems in the game are great. And these things chain together in amazing ways, and just playing through the game is great and fun. But there are a couple of combat rooms. In fact, there's a whole realm full of combat rooms. Now that I think about it, that's also called Muspelheim. And there are a bunch of set encounters that you can do, and if you want some very particular upgrades, that you have to do them. And it is very apparent, playing through some of these, that the people who decided what was going to be in these rooms did not understand what made the game good and fun, and what things in it were enjoyable, and what things are and are not reasonable to ask a player to do. And the difficulty in them swerves so wildly based on what the gimmick of each room is. It's just like, yeah, this is a thing that can mess up a game, and that nobody ever seems to consider. And it sure as hell gives me plenty to chew on. And I get the sense from how you're talking about it that we're going to have one or two of those moments with this game.
I wish it were only one or two.
Right, well, you know, of course when I say one or two, I of course mean the other thing.
I mean, we're gonna have one or two of them in this video alone. And suffice to say, this is not the last time that they will use this whole, you know...
I did not even for a second believe that. Yeah, you can have like good, interesting combat encounters, and you can have like good, boring combat encounters. And you can have bad, interesting, and bad, boring combat encounters. Anyway, I note that we've tactically deployed the fast forward button, and there are inferences that I can draw from that.
So, this is a poison room. As you'll note, your health is steadily going down, and you just have to kill 50 dudes before you die.
I mean, like, yeah, this is obviously an idea that someone had. And nobody thought to question it enough. It was like, why isn't this a timer? I mean, all this is a timer, and when you get hit, you lose some time. But we've already had one that was just a straight timer. So, what really is the point of this?
The only real difference is that there are a couple health chests over by the exit. It is remarkably hard to tell the difference, especially from a distance, because there's also wrath chests lying around.
Yeah. But it's like, the notion of this kind of challenge is also to teach you efficiency, because, you know, you'll have an easier time if you murder everything fast. I mean, you can even get away with doing that in the poison gimmick, because that's the lesson, is that the enemy cannot kill you if the enemy is dead, so kill the enemy really fast and really efficiently, and everything will just get easier for you. That's a lesson. That's video games. But I get the sense that this hasn't been thought through to that, shall we say, philosophical extent, and that this is just a bunch of things that you have to do in a video game.
Oh, this is absolutely the latter. This room in particular is that only the finishing blows count for kills. So this is exactly the same as all of the other rooms that you've done, except this time you have to use the finishing blow.
Oh boy. Like, don't get me wrong, Bayonetta had some bullshit in its optional combat rooms. I mean, this gimmick didn't appear in 2, but there was a gimmick in 1 where, like, go into this room, kill these enemies, and oh, you have, like, 7 punch button presses and 3 kick button presses, and that's all you get. And that's kind of a motherfucker of a thing to ask of a player to do, but there is an exceptionally good reason for that challenge being in the game, and that it's to force you to understand the central combat combo mechanic of Bayonetta, being that you can continue a combo through a bunch of technical stuff like dodges, and you can work it the whole way through and you can get your combo finishes, even if you're dodging in the middle of your combo. That's why it's there. And you can, like, eke maximum damage out of your combos by doing the full thing where she fires the guns, and there's like 5 different things that a player will learn from having been asked to do this thing. And that's video games.
Must be the last of them. Let's get out of here.
So our reward for doing all of these challenge rooms is the ability to parry. That is the thing we just unlocked.
I mean, I'm glad we have the ability to parry, but I don't understand.
It doesn't really flow that well.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, we're going to buy a potion to replace the one that I used in that fight, and we're also going to buy Weapon Master, which is that's just a weapon upgrade. You can tack it onto any of the ones anything that you so choose, and it just does a flat damage increase. So I don't do it like right this second, but it's going to be going on the Scythe, since the Scythe tends to have a low, because it hits in an area, it has a lower overall damage. So I'll slap it on there.
And did I see empty vessels for sale?
There is, in fact, an empty vessel for sale, if you have 2,000 souls to spare.
Wow. So yeah, buying stuff to equip on our equipment. Pretty standard, I guess. Oh, was that a combo list for a split second?
Yes. Yeah, you can look up the move lists there.
How deep is it, incidentally? Like, you got pages and pages of bullshit combos that you'll never remember?
Not really, because you have your one main, 4 or 5 hit combo, and then you have a couple things, like you have the Stinger, you have a home run swing that you can get, which is like it's a powerful attack, but you're stuck in position while you use it, and I don't think the list for anything is too ridiculous.
There's a good middle ground to be found in combo depth these days, I find. Like, lots of people can fight me on this. I don't believe as strongly as I believe other things, but I think Bayonetta kind of is on the wrong side of this. I think it could stand to have less. Whereas a new God of War is, I think, in kind of a sweet spot. But, those are just, my opinions, man. Okay. Thanks.
That's also a weapon upgrade. That one gives you souls when you break things in the environment.
Cool. Well, I guess next time we're actually going to go somewhere and do something.